the Newz franchise bats for women. Bad News is about a decidedly messed up situation, but the narrative never gets too messy. Eventually, it's up to Vicky to power the film, and he pushes through admirably. As I watched Bad News, I wondered, is this the world's first movie franchise built around complicated pregnancy scenarios? In the first film, Good News, released in 2019, sperm samples got swapped. Or, as the Diljit Dosanjh character so memorably put it, spam mix-up. In this film, a woman sleeps with two men in a short span of time, and that rare phenomenon, heteropaternal superfecundation, occurs. Yeah. Which means she's pregnant with twins, but the children have different fathers. It's a deliciously twisted scenario with three charming leads, Vicky Kaushal, Tripti Dimri and Ammy Virk. An added bonus is that the story is marinated in music that triggers nostalgia. A remix of the infectious Mere Mehboob Mere Sanam from Duplicate is the film's de facto theme. There are also audio and visual hat tips to other Dharma production films, including one of my favorites, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. But the soundtrack also includes the Karan Aujla chartbuster Husn Tera Tauba Tauba, which has Vicky gliding across a shiny set as though his limbs have just discovered how to speak a new, more supple, more sensual language. Bad News gives him the John Abraham from Dostana treatment. He emerges dripping and dazzling from a river. The memory of that gut-wrenching dialogue, "Ye dukh kahe khatam nahi hota," from Vicky's first film Masan, recedes into the shadows. Vicky has transformed into the quintessential Dharma leading man, stylish, sexy, and ultimately progressive enough to honor his partner's ambitions and desires. From K3G's Rahul, to Good News' Varun Batra, to Rocky or Rani Ki Prem Kahani's Rocky Randhawa, to Bad News' Akil Chadda, you can see the spectrum. Bad News is about a decidedly messed up situation, but the narrative never gets too messy. Essentially, this is a film with pretty people in glossy costumes enacting a film designed as undemanding, entertaining, sanitized eye candy. For me, that's a worthy enough goal. And Good News has already created a template to follow. Director Raj Mehta created a comedy with laugh-out-loud jokes. You remember that inspired sequence in which Akshay Kumar's character Varun is stoned and he can't stop giggling through this very charged conversation between his wife and the other couple. They're exchanging contracts on how the offspring of the spam mix-up will be raised, and our man finds it all uproariously funny. But into the laughs, Raj also inserted authentic emotion. When the first baby is born prematurely and the men hug each other and weep, I cried too. And then there's Kareena Kapoor's impassioned speech about what women go through when pregnant. I have two kids and I felt every beat of her exhaustion and her heartache. In Bad News, director Anand Tiwari has all the ingredients in place, and yet the souffle fails to rise. The food metaphor is apt because all three characters, Saloni, Akhil and Gurbir, are professionally linked to food. She's a chef whose life's ambition has been to win the Miraki star, basically a Michelin star equivalent. Akhil, who introduces himself as Akhil Chadda Sabton Vadda, runs a popular food shop in Delhi, and Gurbir runs a luxury hotel. Food drives the narrative, but in the most shallow way. In the song Janam, Saloni and Akhil are seated at opposite ends of this long table covered with food, but their passions are so inflamed that soon their bodies are writhing on the table, tossing off the fruit platters and squashing the dessert. It's designed to be hot, but honestly it comes off as somewhat silly. For a better rendition of this same scenario, watch Queen Charlotte. The Miraki star is used as a recurring plot point, but Saloni's drive to win it never feels strong enough, and her interactions with the judges who award it are amateurishly staged. All of which would be possible if more of the jokes landed. Bad News has been written by Tarun Dudeja and Ishita Moitra, who did such fine work in Rocky or Rani Ki Prem Kahani. But here the screenplay is just mostly a miss. The first hour still has some sparkle, but the second is dragged down by an uneasy mix of blandly done drama and sitcom-style comedy. The trio, now forever linked through these unborn babies, are put through a series of trying situations, including living together. But Anand doesn't mind these enough for either laughs or pain.
टॉवल कौन शेयर करता है यार?
भाई बच्चे कौन शेयर करता है यार?
Though there is one nicely written scene between Akhil and his mother in which he tearfully confesses that perhaps he isn't sabse vadda after all. Too much effort has been expended on the gloss. The film is framed as a flashback, with Saloni narrating her life to a Bollywood star who will play her in a film. This adds little except putting one more famous face in the mix. The leads are uniformly attractive and they work hard at trying to make the story sparkle, but the writing is just too flat-footed. Tripti looks lovely, but there's little of the fire we saw in Bulbul and Kala. Of course, those films had a dramatically different DNA. Since Bad News is a spiritual sequel to Good News, Ammy Virk has to match the effortless magic of Diljit, and that is a tall task for anyone. Though he has an inherent sweetness that works here. Eventually, it's up to Vicky to power the film, and he pushes through admirably. There are a few throwaway moments in which you see how deftly he maneuvers his expressions. Watch out for a scene in which Akhil happens to be in a towel when Saloni comes into the room, and the way in which he tries to hint that perhaps they should take it further. He's just terrific. I also like how these films attempt to redefine Bollywood masculinity. In the first one, Varun comes to understand his wife's predicament and love his child, even though strictly speaking, it's not his. In this one, Gurbir says, "Asal mardangi औरतों को सुनने और समझने में है." The Newz franchise bats for women. It's a relief that a Hindi film heroine can have two partners in one night and still remain unjudged, loved by both men, and celebrated. Clearly, we've come a long way. We just need the storytelling to catch up. You can see Bad News at a theatre near you.